25 Rules of Disinformation. Number 1. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Regardless of what you know, don't discuss it, especially if you are a public figure, news anchor, etc. If it's not reported, it didn't happen, and you never have to deal with these issues. Number 2. Become incredulous and indignant. In simple English, skeptical and outraged. Avoid discussing key issues and instead focus on side issues which can be then used to show the topic as being critical of some otherwise sacrosanct/untouchable group or theme. This is also known as the "how dare you" gambit. Number 3. Create rumor mongers. Avoid discussing issues by describing all charges, regardless of venue or evidence, as mere rumors and wild accusations. Other derogatory terms mutually exclusive of truth may work as well. This method works especially well with a silent press, because the only way the public can learn about the facts are through such arguable rumors. If you can, associate the material with the internet. Use this fact to certify it as a wild rumor from a bunch of kids of the internet, which can have no basis in fact. Number 4. Use a straw man. Find or create a seeming element of your opponent's argument, which you can easily knock down to make yourself look good and the opponent to look bad. Either make up an issue you may safely imply exists based on your interpretation of the opponent or his arguments or the situation, or select the weakest aspect of the weakest charges. Amplify their significance and destroy them in a way which appears to debunk all the charges, real and fabricated alike, while actually avoiding discussions of the real issues. Number 5. Sidetrack opponents with name-calling and ridicule. This is also known as the primary attack the messenger ploy, though other methods qualify as variants of that approach. Associate opponents with unpopular titles such as cooks, right-wing, liberal, left-wing, terrorist, conspiracy buffs, radicals, militia, racists, religious fanatics, sexual deviates, and so forth. This makes others shrink from support out of fear of gaining the same label, and you avoid dealing with those issues. Number 6. Hit and run. In any public forum, make a brief attack on your opponent or the opponent's position, and then scamper off before an answer can be fielded. Or simply ignore any answer. This works extremely well on the internet and letters to the editor sections of magazines, where a steady stream of new identities can be called upon without having to explain criticism or reasoning. Simply make an accusation or other attack, never discussing the issues, and never answering any subsequent response, for that would dignify the opponent's viewpoint. Number 7. Question motives. Twist or amplify any fact which could be taken to imply that the opponent operates out of a hidden personal agenda or other bias. This avoids discussing issues and forces the accuser on the defense. Number 8. Invoke authority. Claim for yourself or associate yourself with authority and present your argument with enough jargon and minutiae to illustrate you are one who knows. And simply say, "Oh, it isn't so," without discussing issues or demonstrating concretely why or citing any sources. Number 9. Play dumb. No matter what evidence or logical arguments are offered, avoid discussing issues except with denials that they have any credibility, or make any sense, or provide any proof, or contain or make a point, or have logic, or support a conclusion. Mix well for maximum effect. Number 10. Associate the opponent's charges with old news. A derivative of the strawman argument. Usually, in any large-scale matter of high visibility, someone will make charges early on, which can be, or were already, easily dealt with. A kind of investment for the future, so to speak, should the matter not be so easily contained. In cases where it can be foreseen, have your own side raise a strawman issue and have it dealt with early on as a part of the initial contingency strategy. Subsequent charges, regardless of validity or new grounds uncovered, can usually then be associated with the original charge and dismissed as simply being a rehash without need to address current issues. So much the better where the opponent is or was involved with the original source. Number 11. establish and rely upon fallback positions. Using a minor matter or element of the facts, take the high road and confess with candor that some innocent mistake, in hindsight, was made, but that opponents have seized on the opportunity to blow it out of proportion and imply greater criminalities, which just isn't so. Others can reinforce this on your behalf later, and even publicly call for an end to the nonsense, because you have already done the right thing. Done properly, this can garner sympathy and respect for coming clean and owning up to your mistakes, without addressing more serious issues. Number 12. Enigmas have no solution. Drawing upon the overall umbrella of events surrounding the crime and the multitude of players, paint the entire affair as too complex to be solved. This causes those who would be otherwise following the matter to begin lose interest more quickly, without having you to address the actual issues. Number 13. Alice in Wonderland logic. Avoid discussion of the issues by reasoning backwards or with an apparent deductive logic which forbears any actual material fact. Number 14. Demand complete solutions. Avoid the issue by simply requiring opponents to solve the crime at hand completely, a play which works best with issues qualifying for rule number 10. Number 15. Fit the facts to alternative conclusions. This requires creative thinking unless the crime was already planned with contingency conclusions in place. Number 16. Vanish evidence and witnesses. If it does not exist, it is not fact, and you won't have to address the issue. Number 17. Change the subject. Usually in connection with one of the other ploys listed here. Find a way to sidetrack the discussion with abrasive or controversial comments in hopes of turning the attention to a new, more manageable topic. This works especially well with companions who can argue with you over the new topic and polarize the discussion arena in order to avoid discussing more key issues. Number 18. Emotionalize, antagonize, and goad opponents. If you can't do anything else, chide and taunt your opponents to draw them into emotional responses, which will tend to make them look foolish and overly motivated, and generally render their material somewhat less coherent. Not only will you avoid discussing the issue in the first instance, but even if their now overly emotional response addresses the issue, you can further avoid discussing it by focusing on how sensitive they are to criticism. Number 19. Ignore proof presented. Demand impossible proofs. This perhaps is a variant of the play dumb rule. Regardless of what material may be presented by an opponent in public forums, claim the material irrelevant and demand proof that is impossible for the opponent to come by. It may exist, but not be at his disposal, or it may be something which is known to be safely destroyed or withheld, such as a murder weapon. In order to completely avoid discussing issues, it may be required that you categorically deny and be critical of media or books as valid sources. Deny that witnesses are acceptable, or even deny that statements made by the government or other authorities have any meaning or relevance. Number 20. False evidence. Whenever possible, introduce new facts or clues designed by manufacturers to conflict with your opponent's presentations, as useful tools to neutralize sensitive issues or impede resolution. This works best when the crime was designed with contingencies for the purpose, and the real facts cannot be easily separated from the fabrications. Number 21. Call a grand jury, special prosecutor, or other empowered investigative body. Subvert the process to your benefit and effectively neutralize all sensitive issues without an open discussion. Once convened, the evidence and testimony are required to be secret when properly handled. For instance, if you are the prosecuting attorney, this can ensure that the grand jury hears no useful evidence and that the good evidence is sealed away and unavailable to subsequent investigators. Once a favorable verdict is achieved, the matter can be considered officially closed. Usually, this technique is applied to find the guilty innocent, but it can also be used to obtain charges when seeking to frame a victim. Number 22. Manufacture a new truth. Create your own experts your own groups, your own authors, or your own leaders, or influence existing ones willing to forge new ground via scientific, investigative, or social research, or testimony which concludes favorably. In this way, if you must actually address the issue, you can do so with great authority. Number 23. Create bigger distractions. If the above does not seem to be working to distract from sensitive issues, or to prevent unwanted media coverage of unstoppable events, such as trials, create bigger news stories, or treat them as such, to distract the multitudes. Number 24. Silence critics. If the above methods do not prevail, consider removing opponents from circulation by some definitive solutions, so that the need to address issues is removed entirely. This can be done by their death, arrest, detention, blackmail, or destruction of their character by release of blackmail information, or merely by destroying them financially, emotionally, or severely damaging their health. Number 25. Vanish. If you are a key holder of secrets or otherwise overly illuminated, and you think the heat is getting too hot to avoid the issues, vacate the kitchen. Note: the first rule and the last 5 or 6 rules, depending on the situation, are generally not directly within the ability of the traditional disinfo artist to apply. These rules are generally used more directly by those at the leadership, key planners, or planning level of the criminal conspiracy or conspiracy to cover up position.